Good morning, everybody. We're just back in from one of our harbor cruises here in Lunenburg, and just while I'm talking about that, there's some tickets available running out through towards the end of September. So if you'd like to do a harbor cruise with us, you can check online and you can see what tickets are available and when you might come sailing with us. Anyway, I thought I might just catch up on what we've been up to for the last 2 weeks. We started off, we were supposed to go from here up to Halifax, and we were delayed for a couple of days. There was a headwind of 30 knots plus, and so we sat here for 2 days waiting for the winds to abate. And then finally up to Halifax, and we got to sit between the Acadia and the Sackville. It's a lovely place for us to be between these two ships, these historic ships at the Maritime Museum in Halifax. Yeah, it's always an honor to be there to see those ships. And did a couple of harbor cruises out of Halifax. Always interesting to be in the big city. It's a completely different dynamic than a small fishing village or from the town of Lunenburg here. So fun to be in the big city for a while. And from there we went up to the antithesis of Halifax, which would be Whitehead, the small fishing village in the suburbs of Capt. Love going there. I love the history there. Yeah, it's a beautiful place to take the ship. It's well sheltered, nice place to anchor. Get the crew ashore for a bit for a barbecue. So it's a great place for the ship to visit. Coming out of Whitehead, we're watching Hurricane Lee get bigger and bigger and bigger and smaller and bigger in the Atlantic there, and made the decision that the best place for the ship to be was Pictou. For a couple of reasons. Further away from the North Atlantic, the storm would have to travel across land, which usually degrades them quite quickly. And we were supposed to be in Pictou, so it all added up to that was the decision to make. Looking at the wave rider buoys here off Cross Island, during the storm, the seas outside of Cross Island were 25 to 30 feet, so there's no question in the end that we made the right decision. So out of Whitehead, we went up through Sheddabuckto Bay and the Straits of Canso, and through the locks at the Canso Causeway. Always an interesting process, particularly for the new crew, to put the ship in a lock and have it lifted up a couple of feet and pass the time with the lock masters there, and they're always very kind and catch our lines. So it's always fun to go and to see how long a lineup of traffic you can get on the causeway as we pause the car traffic. So from there, slow trip around from the causeway down around to Pictou, arriving 10 o'clock in the morning, just for slack water there at the wharf. And that was for the 250th anniversary of the landing of the Hector in Pictou, and the 150th anniversary of the settling of the town of Pictou. So wonderful hosts there, and they had this great big huge event planned, and it was all washed out by Hurricane Lee, by the tropical storm, which was unfortunate. But I think next year when they get the Hector in the water, the ship Hector in the water, then there'll be another big celebration, and all that momentum will keep going. We did have wonderful hosts. The owners of the wharf in Pictou, the Pictou town wharf there, allowed us to stay during the hurricane. So we moved to the lee side of the wharf, and we saw 40 to 50 knots at the wharf there, and that's mostly calm. There's a bit of a sea running in the harbor, but we were tucked behind the lee of the wharf, and although worrisome, we managed to sit there quite well. Of course, nobody on the ship, no guests on the ship, which was disappointing, but we still had 600 or 700 people visit the ship while we were available in Pictou, so that was good. And then from Pictou, we launched away back towards Lunenburg and managed to get as far as Liscomb before the next low pressure system came. Liscomb is home of Liscomb Lodge. Is a lovely bay. They're well sheltered for us to hide in. So we sort of made the decision 4 o'clock in the morning that the low pressure was going to meet us about there. So we ducked in and anchored in the dark and sat there for about 24 hours. Till the wind, we knew the wind and sea were going to start to abate. It was still kind of boisterous when we left. We left at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was still kind of boisterous with the seas up a bit and the wind on the nose, but we knew it was going to come around to the northwest and it would eventually flatten out. So we spent, I don't know, 8 or 10 hours there being uncomfortable, and then as we moved on towards Halifax, the sea started to flatten out, the wind started to come around. And then we managed to come in here sort of 6:30 in the morning. So just enough time to take all the gear off the deck and have a breakfast, and then we loaded on 12 people for our deckhand for a day adventure. This is something that we do 3 or 4 times a year, where you get to come and spend the day with the crew doing deckhand things. So scrubbing the deck, shining the brass, helping raise sail. So that was yesterday's plan. We went out and to Princess Inlet, which is where I learned to sail. It's home of the Lunenburg Yacht Club. We sort of motor sail around for lunch and anchor and have lunch, and then happily tucked a reef in the mainsail, and then had a lovely sail back here to Lunenburg. So sort of close reaching at 9 knots or better, and everyone got a turn on the wheel, and yeah, so it was a big adventure for everybody. And then came in last night, and everyone had a good sleep last night. I think we were pretty tired. So, and today back at the Harbor Cruises. So there you go. That's sort of a wrap up of what we've been at for the last 2 weeks. And tune in next time for the next big adventure.